Welcome, everyone. Welcome and good evening. It is just about 5 o'clock, so we're going to get started. If you're joining us on YouTube Live, it's good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Before we get started, I just wanted to ask that anyone, I know many of you are probably going to want to take photographs of your senior giving their presentation. If you could, though, silence your phones, make sure that they don't make any sound during their presentations, that would be great. Another thing I just wanted to mention is that when the presentations are over, this is going to be about a half hour. Each presentation is 6 minutes and 40 seconds, and there's 4 of them, and I'm going to try not to yammer on for too long. But when we leave here, there ought to be food in the lobby. There are also portfolios in the gallery. So these portfolios contain the best work that they have made, the seniors have made, and they need to keep them in good condition, which means we really don't want greasy fingerprints on them. So that's one concern about having food and having things that we want to make sure are carefully handled. So maybe if you would be interested in looking at the portfolios, maybe you could dash in there first and take a look at those and then come back out and get something to eat. And the food stays out of the gallery, the food and drinks stay out in the lobby. You're certainly welcome to go straight in and see the work. Let's see, other housekeeping things. And then we will, so about a half hour of looking at the work, looking at the portfolios, conversation, having food, and then I will announce awards from the show. The faculty voted after having listened to the students talk about their work. So I have 2 awards to announce, and let's see, that's it. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Matt Clay Robison. I'm the gallery director here, and it's my honor to introduce this fall's group of senior graphic design majors. We have Elena Bachman and Alana Bortner and Minerva Carchi-Nieves and Rain Sheffer. And that's actually the order in which they'll be speaking. And so at this point, I'd like to welcome Elena to come up here and show you the work she's been doing for the last 4 years. Please welcome Elena.
All right, here we go. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Elena Bachman, and tonight Alana, Minerva, Rain, and I will be walking you all through our journeys to becoming graphic designers, featuring the work created along the way, and how those projects have led us to our senior theses you'll all get to experience here tonight. From the very beginning of this journey, I realized that having fun with projects is crucial in the outcome. It's how I have been able to create successful work. One recurrence through my projects that have led to this necessary fun is color, and finding aspects of projects, even the smallest of ones, that I can dive deep into. However, projects won't always be a guaranteed checkmark in the fun box. Like all designers, I have encountered projects that have pushed me uncomfortably outside of my comfort zone. But our work can only become better in doing so. We won't always have projects we love, but we do have to find a way to connect with them. Even if we connect to that project by doing our own thing on the side, sometimes doing something unrelated can keep us sane in a project we feel overwhelmed and uninspired by. So we go back to the fun. It's become important to me to have self-directed work and to always remember to do what I love and not what I think I'm supposed to do. Have you noticed that even when we don't have to, we're all photographing? I've always loved taking an aesthetically pleasing pic, but have come to appreciate it even more since learning the technical aspects combined with a designer eye. I've become much more aware of the formal aspects of design that truly have to be considered to make an image come to life. My mind has come to enjoy the challenge of the necessary technicalities. They're reinforcing and rewarding when done correctly. It's also evident that my project designs have only increased in precision and detail-orientedness as I desire as much control and acute focus over each aspect of my projects. Now on to the really good stuff, where all that precision and detailed focus comes into play. I discovered my love for publication design and all the yummy rules that come with it. Consistent spacing and typography importance. It's okay if you have no idea what that means. We're really just going for a delicious looking publication. Even if that means making a medical newsletter look interesting for a client-simulated project. Understanding that, as a designer, text and images will be given to us in bits and pieces instead of all at once is uberly important in being able to stay organized and on top of it all for smaller projects, like these publications we've looked at, but also huge and challenging projects that change your whole perspective, like creating a book within a semester from concept to completion. Being able to do this gave me a huge confidence boost and showed me that I'm capable of doing this as a career. This book made me the designer that I looked up to as a freshman in college. It's filled with different creative aspects like writing, both personal opinions and research, layout design, photography, and some collage making. It certainly was a labor of extremely rewarding love, sweat, and many tears, but I came out on the other side as a new person, not to be too dramatic or anything. Don't worry, I didn't forget about the fun. The development of this wiki reader was filled with rabbit holes and tangents to create something new and different. The goal, quite literally, was to begin at point A and end at point Z for randomness overload, and the fun came from the consistency of design rules. Who knew rules were so fun? Keeping the momentum going, I found my next passion in branding. I knew branding and I would be great friends. There's simply nothing better than matching stationery. However, what I did not expect was the incredible growth changes in my work. Branding pushed me hard in new ways for fresh and new ideas to come to life. Knowing and understanding the importance of logos and how they need to connect to a company is the first step. How the colors and symbolism bleed into the rest of the brand is the second step. Doing it all in a week is the third step. Creating a logo and packaging system in a week was a challenge to show us all what we're capable of accomplishing. Implementing the brand over multiple aspects like a package and an advertisement is the fourth step. Another logo, another big project. However, my NOLA Nut logo wasn't as smooth sailing as the first two, but I do think it was the most successful. After many rounds of edits, it started coming together to convey the outdoorsy vibes I was going for. From the logo, the NOLA Nut packaging system and advertisement were born. The project brought it all together, a sprinkle of publication, a dash of photography, a generous serving of color, and a load of branding. It feels so great when it all comes together, makes sense, and looks pretty freaking good, if I do say so myself. Let's back it up for just a second. Before branding and publication design, there was web design. Of course, I came to love it. There are even more rules. Wireframing or designing requires more precision and focus to make the coding part a bit smoother. Although there are many learning curves, it's rewarding to see what you create in the trial and error process. So what does this all have to do with my senior project? Well, it all began with an element from the periodic table called oganesson. During the preliminary research stages of the project, I noticed that the word itself was outlined in this manner. When outlined in this manner, resembles the structure of a floor plan. And so it began. I dove headfirst into tangents and rabbit holes and landed on interior design. You'll have to wait a bit longer to find out what that means, but landing on interior design meant research, more research, type studies, thumbnails, sketches, and wireframes. These are all the key ingredients to the project and make up the process. From the beginning processes, my project began to grow some legs and take shape as its own living and breathing thing. The elements seen here are the ones consistent throughout all aspects of my senior project and combine what I have come to love in my journey to becoming a graphic designer. I can't wait for you all to see the project in the gallery. Thank you to all my people for the last 3.5 years of unwavering support. To Professor Patterson, Prof. Rogers, and all my YCPGD nerdy friends, I couldn't have done all of this without your continuous feedback. And to my fam bam, your support will always mean the absolute world to me. Now for a girl who needs no introduction, Alana.
All right, thank you very much, Elena. Hi, everyone. My name is Alana Bortner, and I loved York College's graphic design department so much, I decided to stay around for 4.5 years. While I am a little nervous, I am also very excited to take you all through my graphic design journey here. Coming into the graphic design major, this was the first project where I felt a click with what I knew I wanted to do. I remember feeling so proud that I could actually create something like drawing a bottle from scratch and a logo for one of my very first projects, and was so ready to see what else would come with my design. With my first project, I expected graphic design to be all independent work, so I was thrown for a little surprise when we were asked to work on a collaborative project. This was a great way to learn what it's like working with others and making sure all the pieces fit together, while adding a little sprinkle of frustration to it all. Though it came with a little bit of frustration, working with others can create amazing things, especially when you're able to incorporate your group's personal interests to fuel the ideas for your design. This project began working in a group at the start, but we were then able to take our own creative paths for the finish of the project. While there are fun projects where you get to decide almost everything about it, there are also ones that are client-driven and down to business, whether you like it or not. Projects like these helped me learn valuable challenges in professionalism and what I didn't like to do as much when it came to my designing. On the other hand, during this time, I was able to start to find things in design that I love to do, and most importantly, wanted to continue exploring these areas even if they did have specs to follow. I didn't expect a bit of illustration and hand lettering to help create my style and design, but I was definitely happy it did. From that little bit of hand lettering, I wanted to try my hand at an actual lettering arts class to see if there was anything else there. Though this was during COVID, I felt I found myself enjoying doing the homework and losing track of the time. It was a great way to make myself feel good during a bad time for everyone who was affected. I felt like COVID gave me more passion towards my graphic design. When I was back in the classroom, I found that projects I used to dislike, such as setting type, had become exciting because at this point I was really finding my personality in my design, which, spoiler, my ideas did become a little PG-13. Okay. Exhibit A. This was one of my favorite projects that combined my hand lettering knowledge with some sexy little ladies to spice it up. The title of these book series were chosen out of a hat, so I didn't have a choice in getting a raunchy set of words, but it definitely started steering me in a very fun direction. I was then able to take my ideas even farther in my logo design as well. Exhibit B, Last Night's Regrets, a body wash that washes away the mistakes and memories that you made from the night before. Of course, it included some of my hand lettering in the logo, which I know is such a surprise to you all. This ultimately led me to my next adventure of my independent study of hand lettering, the theme being snarky and raunchy while making it look cute. This was such a fun experience because I was able to go back to things I really enjoyed doing throughout my semesters and really try to up my game with them. This project being one of them, this decorative plate was some major inspiration for what I wanted to focus on in my hand lettering independent study. I found it was exciting while nerve-wracking to create something where I can't go back after making a mark like I could on the iPad or computer with the Control Command Z. Since I enjoyed that project so much, I took my hand lettering and tried it out on some plates and cups while keeping my snarkiness with a dash of profanity. Sorry, Mom and Dad. My independent study kept me sane during the semester with doing some of my favorite things, but no project will ever beat my next project. This documentation book may be one of my proudest projects I created throughout my college career ever. For this project, I took photos of things in my everyday life and drew over them with either some small illustrations or hand lettering to vandalize the photo. The title of the book is called Vandalize My Life. It takes the reader through my thought process with the people, places, and things I was experiencing throughout college and why I drew what I did over them. This project helped spark some ideas for my senior project because I wanted to experiment with my photography and hand lettering in a very new way. But before we get into that, it is also important to let you know about this project. This is my typeface that I created my junior year, and it played a big role in my senior project as well. This typeface was based off of my mom's handwriting or hand lettering and was made so I could type with something that felt like her. Now, on to my senior project. This semester-long creation didn't start with the idea of photography and hand lettering right away. Instead, it started with being given an element on the periodic table called yttrium. And after a couple thousand words, I found some rabbit holes that would lead me to my project's idea. From yttrium comes the creation of camera lenses and lasers. These two combined led me to my light drawing photography. I knew I wanted to create this style of art, but I had to decide what the light drawing photography would be. And then it clicked. I would obviously create a typeface with my hand lettering. Flash warning. With a lot of trial and error, such as my brain telling me to do one thing and my hand doing another, I was able to create a typeface with some flow like my mom's handwriting with a flashlight that I was proud of, and most importantly, had a lot of fun doing. I hope you all enjoy my senior project Lightface. Lastly, I want to thank everyone for supporting me through the entire experience, from my professors and classmates to my basketball team and family. I would have never found my personality in the art world without you. All right, now enough sappiness. Here is the amazing designer, Minerva.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Alana, for that introduction. My name is Minerva Carchin-Nieves, and I can honestly say that this has been a very eye-opening experience for me, where I've learned so much about myself, and I hope you enjoy seeing my progression of work during my time here at York College. Before graphic design, I had no clue for what I wanted to do. I mean, I came in as a business major, which I feel like all college students do, but my love for photography was my gateway into this world. Even though I had no prior formal art education, photography just felt like it came naturally to me. Editorial photography helped me refine my photography skills. Learning how to properly light a subject and using light to create different moods was extremely fascinating to me. Even though I love photography, my journey here has opened more doors to different mediums for me to fall in love with. Publication design projects like this one of a medical newsletter gave me a good insight of what my professional career could look like. Although not one of my most interesting assignments, this project gave me the confidence that I needed when starting my summer 22 internship at York Wall Coverings. I have also been given the opportunity to express my own voice in projects such as this one, an interactive vote poster for the 2020 election, which focuses on the countless and preventable deaths from COVID, a project that became more personal to me after the loss of my grandmother in that same year. Using my photography skills, I wanted to create a narrative that not only felt real to me, but felt real to the rest of the world, wanting to bring awareness to the effect COVID had by documenting the numbers of deaths in the US every day for more than 100 days. Although emotionally draining, it felt like it needed to be done. Other projects made me think more happy thoughts and work creatively with others, such as this activity book for creatives just like myself. This was not my favorite project, but this project led me to discover a medium that I have grown to feel very passionate about, which leads me to my collage work. When it comes to my collage work, it allowed me not to take myself so seriously. Collage felt different from other projects in class. There was no 40 thumbnail sketches due by 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Just a buttload of magazine clippings, when combined together, made something you never knew you would get. As semesters passed, I began to explore deeper into my interest for collage. What started as combining random clippings together unintentionally led me to now wanting to form a narrative within my work, like these 3 collages I made, which show a narrative of the observer. someone that appreciates hands-on projects, there was no doubt that I would enjoy letterpress. Being able to work with materials that were used in the past made me feel more connected to this career path. Being able to study, hold, and work with historical pieces is an experience not a lot of people get to have. This semester, I was even given the chance to create my own study, in which I chose to combine letterpress and collage, which is something I didn't see too often. This study allowed me to be unintentional with the letter forms I was printing, but being fully intentional with how I was going to place these letter forms within my clippings. Just like my collage work, my culture has also been a recurring aspect in my designs. Take this logo, for example. We were asked to create a fictional coffee company to create a logo for the company in a week. Struggling to come up with a concept that has not been taken was hard for me. But after some advice from my professor, I decided to name it Carchi Coffee. After some research, I found out that my last name, Carchi, is actually a province in Ecuador that had once been Inca territory. Knowing this, I started to look up for information from their culture and decided to focus my logos on the Inca sun god. Projects like this just seemed to come easy for me. Another project that illustrates this theme is my doc book. No Habla Español is a self-reflection that examines my struggle with my identity as a Latina that does not speak Spanish. I mean, how can you look like me and have my last name and not know how to speak Spanish? But strange, but it's actually more common than people realize. In my book, I explore not only myself, but look at the research of this dying language. I highlighted quotes from some of my favorite influential Latinos, recorded interviews with others in my community, and composed a combination of family photos. This project was so meaningful to me, which is why I dedicated it to my grandmother, Minerva. Finally, for my senior project, I was given the element europium. Named after the continent Europe, it was first discovered in 1892 by Paul Emile. While researching this element, I found out that in that same year, 1892, Ellis Island was welcoming immigrants mostly from Eastern and Southern Europe. Confused on how I was going to approach this project, I knew I wanted to make it personal, but since I do not relate to these European immigrants, I decided to focus on my own culture and the migration of Puerto Ricans and their contributions to the United States through time. In 1917, the Jones Act granted Puerto Ricans legal U.S. citizenship, and although these barriers to migration were lifted, it was not until after the end of the Second World War that migration of Puerto Ricans to the United States boomed. In the 40s, the population stood at 68,000, and by the 50s, there were over 245,000 Puerto Ricans living in the United States. Through a series of Time magazine covers that progressively changed throughout the decades, I want to highlight just a small part of history of Puerto Ricans in the United States. Historical contributions such as serving in the US military during World War II, creating labor unions, fighting for civil rights, and more. Lastly, I want to say thank you for everyone who came out tonight. Thank you to my family, my friends, my professors for helping me get through these fun but very tense 4.5 years. Closing the show tonight, we have Rain.
Thank you, Minerva. My name is Rain Sheffer, and I will be leading you through my journey as a graphic design student, even though it was a messy one. I'm going to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly, so just be prepared for that. I've learned just as much from the mistakes as I have from the successes, and I'll lead you through the inspiration and skills I've gathered to make my senior project. So this is me. This project was a self-portrait postcard that turned out as well as it did because of a happy accident. I had originally planned on holding a prop sword, but when we had to make our mock-ups, I grabbed the nearest thing available, which was a T-square. It ended up being just the right thing for the project, so I kept it in. These were both projects that I did in my freshman year, where I really started to get into using type as an art in and of itself. The words can represent themselves in an illustrative way, like Explorer and Crazy do, but sometimes type doesn't always have to make up a word. It can stand alone as art, whether abstract or not. I took Intro to Letterpress spring of my freshman year. I really feel like taking this class so early influenced how I think about typography and graphic design as a whole. You tend to think of different things you can do with a design if you're working with it hands-on versus a computer. I feel like I carried some of that hands-on experience into my digital design throughout my career. Since I took an interest in hand lettering earlier on and just doing design with my hands in general, I signed up for lettering arts in the fall of my sophomore year. This is some of the work that I'm really proud of, and I feel like this artistic style and way of working is a recurring theme in a lot of my later work. Even if something is digital, it doesn't mean you can't include hand-done elements into it, or the other way around. I used hand-drawn illustration and hand lettering in both of these, even though one recipe spread was done mainly traditionally and the other digitally. You don't have to put yourself in a box just because you chose a certain medium. Different mediums can work in tandem. This is one of the quote-unquote ugly projects, even though I really like the lettering. I took on too much. I tried both bookbinding and using a gold foil pen for the first time during this project. And because I wasn't familiar with these things, I didn't budget my time properly to include all the mess-ups, which led to the box being a 3 a.m. decision the day that it was due. This project came right after the last one. We had just been sent home because of COVID, so our Typorama 10.0 had to be digital. Even though I hadn't worked in Procreate making GIFs before, it was one new thing to take on, not two. With the fresh taste of failure lingering, I didn't bite off more than I could chew, but I didn't exactly back down from a challenge either. Just because a project has to be done entirely on the computer doesn't mean that hand lettering doesn't influence me. I made my own font, which was inspired by hand lettering, and also a brand identity system for an organic farm-to-table company. Taking illustration and hand lettering really influenced me to look at the logo and combine those two things in the way that I did. Talking about digital things, web design. Because we spent the entire semester almost entirely focusing on this one project, I feel like I was able to come out with something that I was really proud of, something that I could try new things and take risks doing. My love for hand lettering can't go unmentioned here. Even though I didn't notice it in the moment, it certainly influenced my type choice. I made this interactive poster in print production. Yes, that's my mouth. Yes, it's gross. I wanted to spread awareness about misophonia, which is the hatred of chewing noises. I didn't know that I had ADHD at the time, which is a comorbidity with this, but I really enjoyed having another type of interactivity to play with in this poster. If you scan the QR code, you get audio. This is another one of my not-so-great projects. I would find out that I had ADHD at the very end of the semester that we worked on this documentation book. I chose experimenting with habits to document for this book because I felt like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't trying hard enough. Why did everything that was so hard for me feel like it was almost no effort for my peers? So I came from the group that started out with knolling. We spent half of the semesters experimenting with it, which I found really fun, and I discovered new things about myself. For the exercise where we had to null 100 things in one picture, I first thought about nulling a bunch of pills in a way that spelled out meds are glasses for the brain. I was told to hold that thought. If I had to relate this to an element, it would be nitrogen, since it is a part of the chemical makeup of dopamine. I first started looking into having ADHD because of a meme that was planted in my subconscious. So I hope that my project can be that little seed for someone else. Now it comes to the actual designing of the project. All good projects have inspiration from somewhere. The images here is some of my inspiration. I knew that I was going to do several different sayings or designs, so I wanted to make sure that they felt like they went together, which is why I was looking at a color palette to make them cohesive. I wanted to talk about my experience with ADHD, while also expanding on the stigma side of it. While showing you my process, I'm going to mainly focus on 2 out of the 5 designs. I started with doodling them in my tiny little notebook randomly, then took those and expanded on them, going bigger and making different iterations to choose from. After choosing the ideas that worked best, I came up with the process. I would hand letter the designs on illustration board with a fine liner. Then I'd scan them into the computer and clean them up with the powers of Photoshop. It does take a lot of work to make it right, but the best part is you can change stuff around since projects evolve even close to their finale. Next, I took colors from the color palettes that I had picked out earlier, printed out tiny versions of the designs, and colored them in with Sharpie to see what they might look like. It was quicker that way. Even though each design doesn't have all the colors in it, I wanted to keep them simple. I carried at least one color from each design into another to tie them all together. see that the bees one is missing a certain word that it had in the color testing, which is an example of my project evolving even near the end. These are designs available on Redbubble that can be worn, stuck on things, or carried around with you. Wearing merch is a great way to express your interests. I hope you'll go see the other designs in the gallery. I want to thank everyone so much for coming, even if you've heard it a million times already. I also want to give a special thank you to my supportive parents, and specifically my mom, who drove me back and forth to college every day for 5 semesters, and my boyfriend of 5 years for being there for me through all the good, the bad, and the ugly. And of course to my professors who taught me a lot and somehow put up with me.
Wow, that was awesome. You did so well. Nailed it. Yes, excellent. Totally nailed it. So I have really good news. You don't have to worry about getting food on the portfolios because it hasn't arrived yet. So you can go into the gallery and you can, I forgot to mention, there is, so the senior work is on the left in the octagonal Brosman Gallery. There's another exhibition on the right, a New York-based artist from Bangladesh, Firoz Mahmood, and so you're obviously welcome to go look at Firoz's work. If there's too many people in the Brosman and it's stuffy, you can go over there, look at that, and take turns looking at the senior work. And then hopefully the food will be here any minute. Enjoy. Thank you for coming. Oh, one last thing. Thank you to the IT group. They make these things go flawlessly. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, James. We appreciate you so much.